We stop the IRS harassment. We review your full tax situation if you want to move forward with us. Again, when you first call us, you get a free consultation. No hard feelings if you don't want to move forward. If you do, we'll prep all the necessary documentation that we need in order to build a solid defense for you. So we find IRS errors, we find overreach, and really just create a custom strategy for you tailored to your needs during this tax season.
And you don't just work with individuals, you also work with small businesses.
Yes, you're exactly right. We've seen every single case and have every single client, whether it's a small business owner, whether it's an independent contractor, retirees, W-2 employees as well during this tax season. Anybody who really just feels trapped by IRS debt, maybe facing an audit, maybe facing penalties, and they're not sure where to turn. That's really where Tax Network USA steps in. We've had $10,000 cases. We've settled over $1 million of tax debt. So we step in just to level the playing field for you so you're not bearing this burden alone.
The reality is there are some people out there listening to this interview who think, all right, well, April 15th is gone. If I don't bother them, they're not going to bother me. That's probably not the best way to go about dealing with your tax concerns.
Yeah, and that's my advice to everybody is to do not ignore this this process and don't let it get don't let time pass you by. So just because those penalties will stack up, fortunately, if you do have experts in your corner, like at Tax Network USA, we have CPAs, we have licensed tax attorneys, we have former IRS agents who really know the tax code inside and out, so you're not having to deal with that alone. But yes, don't let the time pass by just because those penalties do seem to stack up. We got a lot of calls after tax season, after the 15th deadline, and so we're working with a lot of people who just didn't really know where to turn, didn't really know where to start. And that's where we gather all the necessary documentation for you. And again, you're not having to talk with them directly, advocating on your behalf. That's where you leave it to us, and we do that for you.
How long does this process typically take from the initial consultation to, say, the resolution of a tax problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, Terrence, it really just depends on the complexity of the case. Typically, you'll have protection almost immediately with us after hiring us. Full case resolution, like settling tax debt, lifting liens, can really take anywhere from a few months to a year, I would say. But the most important thing is that from day one, you have real defense, you have a solid plan, which most people don't realize that they're missing.
And I would imagine for someone dealing with an issue with the IRS, not having to directly deal with the agents themselves and having someone to intercede, if you will, that in and of itself is worth the cost of admission, that peace of mind.
Of course, because a lot of people don't even really understand their options. And so, when they don't understand their options and they don't understand, their case in its fullest extent, they tend to ignore the problem like a lot of us do, right? Even kids do this when when they don't know the curriculum, studying for a test, they tend to just quite ignore it just because it scares them. And we don't want you to do that. There's a lot of options available. There's offers in compromise, there's payment plans, installment agreements, penalty reductions. We've settled over $1 billion in back taxes. So nothing's too big for us to handle. And so it's just important to have the right people in your corner.
Cameron Kinsey, it's always a pleasure, always good to talk to you. Right there on your screen, folks, is all the information that you need in order to get in contact with the folks over at TN USA or Tax Network USA. The website is tnusa.com/Rav. You can also see the number there at the bottom of your screen. You can either email or go onto the website or call them directly. Well, that's going to do it for your Real America's Voice News Break. We appreciate you being here with us. Now, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show.
another explosive hour of the Steve Gruber Show, coming to you live from the heart of America. This is Studio G. Welcome to it on a free-for-all Friday morning. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride and optimism and uncontrollable enthusiasm about the country's future. Kicking off the live broadcast and Real America's Voice, MTN, and reaching a global audience that's growing by the day. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Donald Trump's approval ratings are on the rise again, according to Rasmussen polling. And Mark Mitchell says the big polling companies are lying to you. Number two, in a brilliant bait and switch, Donald Trump fired Mike Waltz from the National Security Advisor post. The Democrats pounced until Trump announced that Waltz would be going to the United Nations as ambassador. Then they just got all slack-jawed. And number three, well, we're back on cue. It's a big old free speech, free-for-all Friday, brought to you by Patriot Mobile. And the Common Sense Hotline, it's 877-310-9966. The Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966. It's your chance to speak out, America. 877-310-9966. But first, we start with this. Listen.
Why was Mike Waltz let go?
So it wasn't let go. He is being made ambassador to the United Nations, which, of course, is a Senate-confirmed position. I think you can make a good argument that it's a promotion. But we brought Mike on to do some serious reforms of the National Security Council. He has done that. I like Mike. I think he's a great guy. He's got the trust of both me and the president. But we also thought that he'd make a better UN ambassador as we get beyond this stage of the reforms that we've made to the National Security Council. You saw the president announce that Marco Rubio is going to step in as interim leader of the National Security Council. So I think the media wants to frame this as a firing. Donald Trump has fired a lot of people. He doesn't give them Senate-confirmed appointments afterwards. What he thinks is that Mike Waltz is going to better serve the administration, most importantly, the American people in that role, and I happen to agree with him.
And you happen to agree with him. There you have Mike Waltz's story summed up quite quickly. All right. Let's get to those phone lines, 877-310-9966. First up today is Veronica, Kansas City, Missouri. Veronica, welcome to it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I've got a really great Maha story for you.
All right.
About 13 years ago. Are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, about 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver because I was on Xanax for way too long. And my doctor told me to get rid of all canned food and all preservatives 13 years ago. I changed my lifestyle, and now it's called paleo, no labels. So there is hope, and I think that what RFK Jr. is doing is awesome.
Make America healthy again. You're a big fan.
Yes, sir. I live the lifestyle every day for the last 13 years, and I survived cirrhosis of the liver.
Well done. Veronica, that's a great story.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice story to start the day here today. Wow. Didn't know you could do that with paleo. Look, there are all sorts of different cures out there, but it starts with what you put in your body is what you get out of your body. I think that's true. Make America healthy again is a hell of a movement. Jonathan is in Kansas. Jonathan, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine.
What's on your mind?
I'd like to talk about the tariffs. The tariffs
All right.
are going to drive foreign companies to come back to America and build plants here. And that sounds real good, and it is good to put Americans back to work. But the problem is the profits still go back to the foreign countries. And what they've been doing in the past is buying us out. They now own 26% of all American corporations are foreign-owned. So this is just going to escalate that problem.
That's possible, but look, if they've been building Toyotas and Nissans, small pickup trucks in this country since the 1960s. At least the Americans get the jobs. I don't know. What's your solution? You want the people not to have foreign ownership? I don't think that's a viable path forward. Foreign ownership, the way the world's laid out, is true in the EU. It's true in Canada and Mexico. I mean, foreign ownership, Americans own corporations in those countries. Is that wrong?
Well, they call it investing in America. That's what a lot of the leaders call it, and which is somewhat true, but the problem is, are we selling off our country to pay for our past sins of the trade deficit?
Well, I don't know what the solution. I don't know if there is a solution. I don't know if you need a solution for that. Often these companies are owned by multiple different groups and backers from different countries. What would you suggest?
Well, have a limitation a limitation of how much money leaves our country.
All right. I'll take that under advisement, Jonathan. It's a good phone call. Makes me think about it. Something I wouldn't have considered before, but okay, it's worth consideration. We'll do that here at the program. Thank you for the call. Ed, Indiana, what do you got?
I'm looking at the word bribery, and when people donate money to politicians that are not in their district, isn't that technically bribery?
No. You can support any politician you want in this country. It's called free speech.
Yeah, but you're bribing my politician. You're buying them off.
Here's the problem. It's not the individual that gives money that's the problem in this country, generally speaking. Even people like Elon Musk, who spent $290 million in the last election, that's not the problem. The problem is we have too much money in politics, period. If you limited it to, let's say if you're running for president, you're allowed to spend $10 million. You're running for Senate, you can spend $1 million. Running for Congress, $500,000, whatever it is. You put a limit on it, period. That's it. Doesn't matter what you do. That's all you can spend, period. On travel, on advertising, whatever. Maybe make an accommodation. If you're in a big state, you got to drive farther. Maybe you get a gas allowance, whatever it is. We need all this money out of politics because it's the lobbyists that buy politicians a lot more than individual donations. But I appreciate your concern, Ed. It is a concern to have as to how much money we spend and where it comes from. It's a good phone call, and we need to keep an eye on it. Calvin, in the Palmetto State of South Carolina, what's on your mind?
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. Are we going to have another Waco in Texas?
Meaning?
The 400 acres that the Muslims are going to be building a community. They're going to be very similar to a Waco community.
Oh, I got you. That community, okay, that's a different one. We already have the community that has 50,000 illegals in it in Texas. 50,000 because the real estate agents found a way to sell land to people in the country illegally. As far as the Muslim community, I don't believe that can pass muster. This document here, called the United States Constitution, promises a Republican form of government to everyone. Everyone. I don't think you can sidestep that. So it's, but it is an important development and worth considering. 400 acres, Sharia law, a Muslim community in Texas. What do you think of that? Just keep that in mind. Thank you for the phone call. Greatly appreciate it. What's in your cup today? You know, it's in my cup, 1775 coffee. No compromises. It's not weak. It's not corporate. It's real. 1775 coffee. Bold, high quality, built for those who refuse to compromise. It powers my Free-for-All Friday. Hand-picked at high altitude. It's single origin beans that are roasted to perfection. No toxins, no shortcuts. You know what it is? It's damn good coffee is what it is. Damn good coffee. I know it powers me here every single day. You want some for yourself? Yes, is the answer. You do. Go to 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use that promo code Gruber, and that coffee cup of yours can be a little bit cheaper, 10% off. 1775 Coffee. I'll be right back on Free for All Friday. continue the conversation now with America on a Free-for-All Friday. At Patriot Mobile Common Sense Online, 877-310-9966, 877-310-9966. Steve, New York. What do you got?
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good morning, Ralph, chat family. I want to know what you know about the biodigital convergence, if anything.
Biodigital convergence. You're going to have to help me here.
Okay, the IEEE, which is the International Electricians and Engineering Corp, is connecting us with sensors being dropped from the planes and in our food, and now we have digital twins connected to the cloud. Do you know anything about it?
No.
Okay, well, do me a favor, my friend. Just, if you would, search IEEE, Wireless Body Area Network, Emerging Technology, and then I'll talk to you again. God bless you all. Jesus is number one.
Thank you very much. All right. Let's go to John. He's in Michigan, the great state of Michigan. John, what's on your mind?
And what's on my mind is when you talk to some of these Republicans that come to you and talk to you, ask them what they're going to do about putting teeth into our laws that say that the Secretary of State has to clean up the voter rolls, and so the people like Jocelyn Benson can't get away with doing what they've been doing to us for the last 8 years.
Well, John, that's a great phone call. It's happening in some places around the country. It's not happening in Michigan as it should be. You're talking about Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State here in my home state. The laws are the laws, but she doesn't seem to think she needs to follow them. Thankfully, it didn't have any impact on the outcome of the election in November. But yes, our voter rolls need to be cleaned up. Voter rolls need to be cleaned up around this country. And yes, we need to get this legislation through that the Democrats successfully killed that would require a voter to be a citizen of these United States. It's pretty simple stuff, folks. If you're not a citizen of the United States, you can't vote in these elections. John, I really appreciate the call. That's important stuff, and it's important for people to know. We need to clean up our elections because when people are allowed to vote the way they want to vote, great things happen. Florida, no longer a swing state. It's a red state. Same thing for Ohio, Iowa. Once people are allowed to vote the way they want to vote, without interference, without somebody else's thumb on the scale, well, look what happens. Speaking of one of those swing states, Iowa used to be a swing state. Now it's a red state. Brian is in Iowa. Brian, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm glad we're not a swing state anymore. Okay, first thing, got 4 quick things. Like the ALC, she's going around rallying. Why don't I follow her around and pick up all the illegal aliens? Pretty soon she won't have anybody at her rallies. Second thing, the ACP, the political program, the Democrats killed it. Maybe they'll do that again for us disabled people. Third thing is the student loans. Why did they ever charge interest? If they made a monthly payment, they shouldn't have got charged interest, and they would have been helping the people instead of hurting the people. And fourth, DEI really stands for dumb, educated idiot. I'm done.
All right. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. I think that we just rise above the fray. Look, you look at what Donald Trump is doing. First 100 days, I was there for the celebration in Macomb County, Michigan. There at the community college. Packed house, enthusiastic people supporting this president. And people realize that there are going to be, potholes and roadblocks and speed bumps along the way. It's not all going to be easy. You know that, and so do I. So I'm glad that we're moving forward the way we should. Let's go to Antoinette. Antoinette is in New Jersey. Antoinette, how are you today?
Hey, good morning, Steve. I'm hoping that New Jersey is also a swing state. We had 100,000 people at the Wildwood rally for Trump last year, and we're having a gubernatorial primary June 10th. And I want to know who the MAGA upper echelon are supporting in our governor election. Nobody's talking about it. General Flynn is appearing this month with Bill Spadia, so I'm thinking that's the guy. But can you bring more attention to this on your show, hopefully to get New Jersey to unite to elect somebody who will support Trump?
Well, here's the thing. Are you ever going to elect a Republican governor in New Jersey?
Well, unfortunately, we had one, Chris Christie, but
yeah, how'd that work out?
Yeah, not too good.
In fairness, it worked out fine. He was better than the alternative.
True. Yes.
And you got Josh Gottheimer. He's the one running for the Democrat side, right?
Correct. Yes.
You trust me. You take Chris Christie over that guy. You might not like him. He might not be your favorite, but he's better than the alternative. And that's what I have to say. And that's why I say that to folks. Look, if you don't vote in the midterm elections, well, Trump's not there, and I don't. Look, you've got to vote in the midterms because even a rhino, sad to say, but even a rhino is better than the alternative. All right, we'll get one more in. Thank you, Carlos from Florida. What do you got from the Sunshine State?
Hey, Steve, thank you for taking my phone call.
Of course.
I was looking at the Discovery Channel the other day, and we got satellites that I could be walking down the street reading a newspaper, and they could be thousands of miles up in the air, and they could read what I'm reading in the newspaper.
Yep, that's been true for years. Go on.
Right. Can we send one of those over Ukraine and pinpoint where the Russians are sitting and just aim a missile there and just get rid of a lot of Russian soldiers that way? Not over Russia.
Why the hell would I want to do that? Hold on. Why the hell would I want to do that?
No, I'm talking about before we send the $300 billion over there and spend all that money. We could have just sent a missile. We're giving them arms anyway. Just
look, dude, that's crazy talk. Come on, that's crazy. You're talking about World War III. That's a silly thing to say. Start blowing up Russian soldiers. Well, what's your end goal in that? You want to be at war with Russia? Because I don't. I'm concerned that the Trump administration is taking too hard of a look at a war with Iran. I don't want that either. I want to disarm Iran. I want to make sure they don't have nuclear weapons, but war, no, sir. Sorry, Carlos. I'm just going to go ahead and disagree with you on that one. Vehemently disagree. All right, it's Free for All Friday. The Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966. 877-310-9966. Dial up. Get on the line. Be somebody. Your friends will be impressed on this Friday. Free for All Friday, 877-310-9966. I really do appreciate your participation in this little exercise of ours. Let's see. Tony is in the great state of Michigan, a place that I call home. Tony, what do you got?
Good morning, Steve.
Go ahead.
I'm calling in concerns. I'm 100% disabled veteran, and we get paid to travel. For me, it's a 3-hour drive to get to a VA. Why don't they change our benefit into an insurance and allow us as veterans to actually make some rapport with a family doctor, saving our country probably billions to trillions of dollars on maintaining buildings, maintaining employees, paying us to travel.
No, I understand. Didn't Donald Trump make that possible for veterans and those in the VA system to use your family doctor in his first term? I thought that I understood that.
No, that community care is only on emergency and only if they okay you to do that.
What you're suggesting then is to get rid of the VA hospitals in general, Tony. Just have the veterans use regular hospitals, regular doctors, stay close to home. I get it. That's what you're saying, right?
Right. And the reason is unfortunately, for example, I had to have 4 teeth placed. It took them from start to finish 7 years to get them 4 teeth in.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous the way.
There's got to be a better way, Tony. I agree with you. I think we should look into that, making veterans use the same system as others, and so it's closer to home. It's more convenient. You don't have to travel 3 hours, and we don't have to spend billions of dollars on that VA hospital. Tony, thank you so much. Let's get James from North Carolina on the line. Close out this segment. James, real quick, please. James, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, real quick.
Yeah, mine's a question. It's a statement and with a question on it. Illegal immigrants have the opportunity to go through legal process by going through points of entry and request asylum, the process of legal citizenship. But they chose to come in our country and not request any legal process, so they were not denied legal process.
Correct.
They chose to come in the U.S. illegally, and Biden administration gave them a app to go around the legal process. So illegals chose not to take the opportunity to use the legal process. So how can Trump administration be held liable?
I agree with that. How can one group allow them in illegally and the other group say, well, you can't do that? I agree with you. America, you ready to continue with the conversation? Because I sure am on a free-for-all Friday. We're going to go to Mike in Florida to kick this segment off. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, good morning, Steve. Thanks for taking my call. I'd like to speak to the legal warfare that's going on in our country.
right now I've done some research, and in our country there are 31,770 judges either elected or appointed, which represents less than 1/10 or 1/100th of 1% of our nation population. Yet if they decide what's good for our nation, I guess, in my opinion, that's more like communism than democracy.
Well, I will tell you this, Mike, that's not going to stand. It's 600 and some federal district judges that are the real concern, happening again yesterday. In fact, one this week said that you can't arrest illegal aliens unless you have a warrant to arrest that illegal alien. Really? I guess until there's a warrant to arrest people, you can't do that anymore. So if you see a crime that's being committed, or you know that the person's here illegally, or they're selling drugs, or they're doing something, you can't arrest a person for being an illegal alien unless you have a warrant, which is absolute nonsense. None of that's going to stand, Mike. You're exactly right about everything you said. Everything you said, you're exactly right. These judges, I didn't know there were 31,000. Thank you for that number of all judges. But it's the federal district judges that are the ones that have gone completely rogue because nobody has reined them in. Hello, Republican Congress, where the hell are you? Republican members of Congress need to get this taken care of, period. Rein in these judges that are completely out of their lanes. Get it done. Too much vacation time. In fact, I would say you can't leave Washington until the problem is solved, period. Let's go to Mike in Arizona. How's Arizona today, Mike? What do you got?
Well, sir, I'm personally boycotting China, and I've done it for the last month, and I've done it without sacrificing anything, and it's not as hard as people might think. And if all of us would get together and boycott China, we could bankrupt China.
You'd stop buying Chinese goods. You know, it's Chinese junk. I had this, I'll tell this story real quick. During COVID, I bought this 30-gallon gas can. It rolls around. It's got a little pump on it. So you can have extra gas for the lawnmower. If you're really in a pinch, you can put some gas in the car or whatever. I've only had it a couple years. I go to use it over the weekend, last weekend. Boom. The whole tube, the gas line snaps right off. It's brittle. It's plastic. It's Chinese junk. I'm sick of Chinese junk in my life. Yeah, the whole gas line snaps right off. Unbelievable. I'm with you. Let's boycott China. Let's onshore as many jobs as possible. I agree with that completely. Let's go to Paul, Tennessee. How's Tennessee, Paul? What do you got?
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. What's happening?
Well, I'm not here to talk about blowing up Russians or conspiracy theories.
Was that nutty? Did I miss something? That we were talking about that in the break. I'm sorry. You're just going to throw missiles in and kill Russians? Come on, people. We're trying to avoid war here. Anyhow.
Well, the Democrats were the ones who kept poking the bear, and he finally reacted, and now he's the bad guy.
Well, in fairness,
but anyway,
hold on. In fairness, Paul, Republicans and Democrats poked the bear because in 1991, when the Warsaw Pact countries broke up, which was the NATO, counterpart, we promised, did the United States, that we would not march NATO east. And what have we done since then? March NATO east every step of the way until you get the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, all sitting right up against Russia. They're on the border there. We said we wouldn't do that. Of course, at some point, you're going to push them to react. And they did. Anyhow, your point. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, another thing, my wife was sworn in as a citizen yesterday.
Congratulations. From what country did she come?
Many long years of paperwork and money. And I want... Oh, and she used to tell everybody that the people who come in here illegally are the same ones who who want something for nothing in Mexico and aren't willing to work. So they come to America.
Where's your wife from?
Mexico City.
There you go. All right, carry on real quick. What's your point?
Anyway, I want a voter verification day. Maybe Trump could do an executive order. All you got to do is go to your polling place, identify yourself and that you live in that precinct. And anybody who doesn't show up, well, too bad. You're just going to have to re-register.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I appreciate that. On this real ID thing, it occurs to me is Paul's talking there. We have real ID. I think the deadline's like May 7th. It's like right now. And if we have real ID, couldn't we have a real ID type system that said you're a citizen or you're not? And if you're not, then you cannot vote. Couldn't we make this? I mean, look, They've got tracking systems on all this. The guy was talking about, you could read a newspaper from space. That's been true for 25 years, maybe longer. At any rate, they can dial right in, look at exactly what you're doing. Can't we find a way to make sure that only U.S. citizens vote? Just asking for a few million friends. Let's go to Jesse, Florida. Jesse, what's up in Florida? What do you got?
Hey, Steve. What really bothers me is how can Congress lie to the American citizens, but and nothing happens to them. But if an American citizen lies to Congress, we get thrown in jail. How is that even a thing?
It's remarkable, isn't it? It is remarkable.
Yeah.
You got all these people that sit up there and lie routinely to Congress. Nothing ever happens unless you're Steve Bannon and you don't show up at all. Then they throw you in prison. You can lie to Congress. You just got to show up and make sure you lie to their faces. If you don't show up, you get thrown in jail like my colleague Steve Bannon, right? I mean, we've seen that happen too often.
It happened to a few people, and it's right. Like, wait a minute, Schiff is out there lying. It just perturbed it to me.
Oh, he lies so much. All he did was lie about Russia. You're so right. There's a guy that needs to be held to account. Adam Schiff, 100%, lied to Congress, lied about impeachment, lied about the facts that he had, lied on television day after day after day after day during the Russia thing. Jesse, you're sorry. Makes my blood boil. Thank you for the call. Really appreciate you. Joe, New Jersey. Back to New Jersey twice today already. What's up?
Hey, what's going on? I just want to make a couple comments about, what's going on with these judges. They're a little, every time Trump tries to get something done, there's always some sort of injunction. It's almost like they're not really respecting the power of the president.
They don't.
Can't he, press him a little bit,
You'd like to think so. Here's what has to happen. These judges have to be pressed by the House of Representatives, the Republican Congress, Speaker Mike Johnson. Where are you? That's where it needs to be held.
Well, the thing is they're judges. They're not the president. So
I understand that.
The president needs to put a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, make a phone call to them. If I was the president.
I don't think most of those rogue judges would care that Donald Trump called them on the phone. I appreciate your sentiment, Joe. I just don't think they'd care. Thank you for the phone call. Let's get to Heather in Florida. Heather, what's happening in Florida? What do you got?
Good morning, Steve. I want to second Steve from New York's the IEEE with the W ban, looking that up with SOSA, MOSA, and WOSA logging in and out of our bodies already. But what I'd like to tell people is I just came back from Central America, and the dissidence in what's going on here and maybe media reality in Central America was so off the chart. I did medical tourism. My money was stolen from me. I was threatened that I would be killed because I was an American. I came back a week early. I was supposed to fly back yesterday. I came back after 3 weeks of the medical tourism.
Wow. What country?
Because I was down just south of Nicaragua in Costa Rica.
All right. We'll talk about that after the break. I'll be right back. right, back to it now. For those of you on the phones, I'll get to you, don't you worry. Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966 on this Free for All Friday. And don't worry, I'll get to you, but I had to check in with my good friend Nick Hopwood because I noticed that the markets were settling down. There were all these doom and gloom headlines. Nick, come on with me here. There were all these doom and gloom headlines here, I don't know, 10 days ago. Worst April since 1932. The whole world's going to stop it. And then the markets have come back. It's not the worst April since 1932. Wasn't great in many regards, but I think the overall, the market's recovered a fair amount. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's almost at 41,000, the Dow. It's at 40,753. I would call that almost 41,000. Yesterday up a bit. NASDAQ was up 1.5%. S&P was decent. I mean, whatever was going on with the tariff, anxiety seems to have settled out. Right or wrong, my friend?
You hit the nail right on the head. It's completely settled down. I don't think we're necessarily out of the woods, but you're right. The month of April, was looking just absolutely terrible. We had an intraday drawdown on the S&P of 21%. So that's the peak from February 19th to the low of early April, down 21%. Steve, it qualifies as a bear market, although you don't hear anyone talking about that because it wasn't a closing price of down 21%. Another reason you don't hear anyone talking about it is because of the strong snapback that we've had. In fact, at the close of the month, the S&P was down just a hair. The global markets were up, and the fixed income markets were up. So if you had a global balanced portfolio, you're maybe positive 0.5% for the month of April.
Right. There you have it. It's interesting how they'll come out, they being the corporate media. New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, NBC, whatever. It's the worst month ever. Hide under your bed. And then it gets better. Shh. Don't say anything.
Yeah, and Steve, I got to say, maybe a month or two ago, we talked about how people are viewing their investments through the lens of politics. Yeah. And I urge people not to do that. Yeah. For instance, Democrats today, they've never been so negative on the economy as they are right now. And guess what? Guess who was calling in concerned about their portfolios in April and selling? It was people who are Trump haters. They're taking their money out of the market at the wrong time.
Well, good for us. Good time to buy.
Well, we were also on with you preaching if you're young, if you don't need the money for a while, if you want to be opportunistic, it would be a good time to add money in, good time to do Roth conversions.
In fact,
stuff like that.
I think your advice was simply something of this nature. If you're in a retirement period, right, you've got about 2 years of money that's pretty well insulated. It's a pretty safe spot that it's in. Your money that's out there 2 to 5 years, maybe a little bit more. And if it's beyond 5 years, don't look at it. Just go along. I think that's the advice. Look, if you don't need it for 5 years, what are you worried about April of 25 when you're not going to get it until April of 2030? Relax, right?
I agree with you. Now, let's suppose you're retired and you're taking money from your portfolio right now.
Yeah.
And you just experienced this in April, and we kind of got bailed out here with a big rebound. Now would be a good time to rebalance your portfolio.
Yeah.
Maybe take some money off the table and put it into safe but not lazy money. And now you'd have that income for the next year or two that you don't have to worry about with markets going down.
And you just hit on something that you and I have talked about ever since you came on this program. Lazy money. Don't have money. You've got some people, you meet them, they've got cash flow that's positive, and they've got all their money piling up on a checking account that pays them, 0.5% or nothing at all? I mean, you can't do that.
That's right. So that's the no lazy money mantra. We have just a few people that we've talked to recently in this situation where they're just piling up money in their checking account, a couple thousand a month, and all of a sudden you have a couple $100,000 in your checking account. Imagine how much more income or how much more profits we could have earned over the last couple of years investing in the markets. Just taking some risk where we can make more than 0.5%, as you say. And by the way, we can make 4% with no risk in money markets and T-bills.
Yeah.
And so we have to incorporate our free cash flow into our plan. Otherwise, we have this lazy money, the money's not working for us, we're going to have to continue working more years as a result.
Yeah, let me ask you one more thing. We've been looking at life insurance lately because mine was term life is what I've had for a number of years. I've never thought that life insurance was a vehicle that I didn't like it. But it's the original tax-free investment plan you say. Is there a good time for life insurance? I've never liked it as an investment, but I'm sitting here, I'm about to buy life insurance. Am I too old to invest in a life insurance plan, a whole life deal that would pay me back at some place? Real quick, we got about a minute.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first place I start, Steve. And we have a lot of people, getting married, having babies. That's the time when you want a lot of cheap term life insurance. Yeah. It's extremely inexpensive. You can get a lot. And someone in your situation, you're probably or could be self-insured, right? The mortgage is getting paid down. Your kids are off to college or close, and you have money set aside for that. And so I like term for young people. Now, on TikTok, you'll see a lot of people talking about how a 401k is a scam. And a lot of other weird things. Go on. You want to put money into life insurance. It's definitely not my advice. You should definitely consult with a CFP before you take out a policy like that. But it is appropriate for some people. And if you do it right, it can be a nice tax-free investment. All right. So just talk to an advisor. And if you'd like to talk to Nick, you can find Nick at peakwm.com/Gruber. Got to have the Gruber to get a second opinion today. Like I say, Nick, you need more Gruber in your life. I completely agree with that. peakwm.com/Gruber. And you can talk to Nick. I do. You should as well. I trust him. You should as well. Nick, thank you as always. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Steve. Well said. All right, there you have it. More Gruber all the time, and do it with peakwm.com. When I come back, more of your phone calls here on Free for All Friday. So if you made it through that segment, then you'll make it onto the program in just a moment. It is the Steve Gruber Show.
to it here on a free-for-all Friday. Real quickly, I want to tell you this before you guys head off. I'm doing the parasite cleanse by way of the Wellness Company. I've been thinking about this for a while. They've got an ivermectin, mebendazole compounded formula. And Dr. McCullough and I were talking about this yesterday. You got parasites, get rid of them at the Wellness Company, TWC.com/Gruber, TWC.com/Gruber. Get rid of this stuff as soon as you can, all right? That's the Wellness Company. Back to the phones now. I've got Anita in Georgia. Anita, what is on your mind?
Yes, Steve, good morning. I was calling because I need to do a refi on my home loan.
Yep.
And these interest rates, I might could do it today or tomorrow because of emergency repairs. My house fell apart since Biden's been in office, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should.
I think you should sit tight for this is the only advice I got. I think that interest rates are going to come down. If you can hold on a little bit longer, I think you should hold on. And
yeah, I saw that Trump told.
It's going to come down. It's just a matter of time, Anita. It's going to come down. The interest rates are going to come down. They have no choice. Inflation's at 2.4%. They've got to bring it down. Jerome Powell has to do it, Anita. And best of luck. I'm sorry about your house and the trouble. Let's go to Caroline in Maine. Caroline, let's get it in here. What do you got?
Good morning.
Good morning. What's up?
Good morning. I have an issue that I don't think you've heard of before, and it's really, I'm 70 years old. I lost everything trying to raise my grandchildren in a state where you're not allowed to do that because it's the worst state. We have the worst state for child abuse. But besides that, I ended up going to the homeless shelter, the local homeless shelter, because literally with Biden, I lost everything, and I can't get my mail. I think I need Mr. Lutnick. There's a policy, and I've reached out. I don't know how to get a hold of anybody, really. I love this transparent admin.
Post office box, Caroline. Can't you get a post? I only got 10 seconds. Can't you get a post office box?
The problem is once you go into a homeless shelter, if you forward your mail there, you can't move. You forward your mail to a homeless shelter, you're screwed.
Sorry, hard break. Steve Gruber Show, free for all.